Hello everyone, it's Laura Jane with 5 cards today to share with you in this video. I have 5 cards, 1 kit. I'm creating with the Dedcadent Dodecagram Creativity Kit from Altenew. In this creativity kit, we find the Warm Spring Mini Cube ink set, Dodecagram stamp set, Dodec cover die, Dodec star die set, and an exclusive inspiration guide. I chose this Dedcadent Dodecagram Creativity Kit because it didn't have flowers in it, and I wanted to challenge myself. For the first card, I stamped a simple background, a 1-layer card, using all 4 of the colors in the Warm Spring collection. I used what I thought looked like a flower stamp from the set. That solid image looked like a daisy. I like the clear stamps because it's so easy for placement if I have to restamp an image. I can see clearly through it to place it over the top to get a better second impression. The inks found in the Warm Spring collection just happen to be some of my favorite ink colors from Altenew. There is Ruby Red, Coral Berry, Warm Sunshine, and Buttercream. Now I thought this card needed a little bit more pop, so I chose the Obsidian ink to stamp the word Celebrate 3 more times. And next I took the artist marker R318 to add a tiny dot in the center of each flower. And then I used the black artist marker to add a little bit more dimension to the center of that. Here I'm just re-inking a couple of those yellow flowers once again. And that's the first one. I love the simplicity of it. And by choosing different ink colors, it could be used for a masculine card too. Now this next card features a faux layered die cut technique, which I learned from Jennifer McGuire. To create this one, I inked 4 panels of white cardstock with each of the 4 colors in the Creativity Kit. I then cut each with the Dodec cover die and removed the tiny pieces. Then carefully I added glue to the cover die cut panels. Then I placed them slightly off from the lower panel to get a drop shadow for each layer, with each panel showing just slightly. With an extra panel of cardstock inked with Warm Sunshine as the background, the layered die cut panels that we previously put together looks fabulous. I wanted to keep the faux layered panels as the focal point of this card, so I simply inked "Thank You" from the stamp set 3 times, making 3 simple sentiment banners, glued those in place, and this card is finished. Once again, a very simple and quick card. Moving on to the third card, I lightly brushed a white card front with Coral Berry ink, using the Dodec cover die as a stencil. Then I blended a separate panel with all 4 ink colors found in the kit. This creates a really pretty coral color. I cut the largest Dodec star from the panel and put glue on all the tiny cut pieces while it was still in the metal die, then flipped it over on top of the stenciled panel, poking through those release holes to get those tiny pieces to stick to the stenciled panel. I carefully peeled the outline of the star of the die and replaced any missing tiny cuts for an inlaid look. Next, I embossed the outline with rose gold embossing powder. Glued that outline over the top of the tiny pieces and embellished with tiny rose gold embossed centerpiece taken from the cover die. The sentiment strip simply says "Celebrate," stamped and embossed with rose gold powder. This made a really pretty and simple card. I love how it turned out. Card 4 starts with a white panel, inked again with all 4 colors: ruby red, coral berry, warm sunshine, and buttercream. I love how they mix to create a cheerful, soft coral haze. Then I squished each of those ink cubes onto release paper, gave it a spritz of water, and then flipped some color on that background panel with a small brush. Then I added double stick tape to the back of that panel. And ran it through my die cutting machine with the Dodec cover die. My plan was to save all the tiny bits and pieces for a second card. That didn't quite turn out. The tape was just too sticky, and I didn't have time to fiddle with it, not even with a craft pick. So I moved on to plan B. I took the release paper off the back of the panel and stuck it to an A2 size card front. Then very carefully got rid of those last remaining little bits and pieces. I think this looks very pretty. Next, I trimmed it down to 3 3/4 by 5 inches. I saved a couple of those thin cuts to trim the front like a ribbon, and you'll see that later. Then I took the 2 Dodec star die outlines to create a large bow as a topper. I pressed the coral berry ink cube onto the largest Decastar to give it some color. Then I pressed clear embossing ink over the top and then used clear crisp embossing powder to make it shine. Next, I took the small Decastar and pressed the embossing ink on top and then used rose gold embossing powder. Then I glued the embossed die cuts onto white cardstock. And did a little fussy cutting around the edges. Next, I glued those together and then popped it on the card front. I did add a little enamel dot at the very center of the gold Decastar. I love how there is the texture from the cover die on the background and then that beautiful pop of the large bow on top. I didn't add a sentiment because I can't decide if this is going to be a birthday card or a congratulations card. And for the final card, I'm dry embossing the Dodec cover die on 110-pound cardstock. The dry embossing helps me know where to place the stamps that coordinate perfectly with that cover die. Inking first with coral berry on the large solid images. And then the ruby red for the center stars. And finally, for the very center circles, I inked with warm sunshine. Next, I took another white panel and blended warm sunshine real quick, leaving a highlight in the center of that panel. Then I cut the Dodec cover die from the yellow panel. Next, I glued the edges and a couple of center points on the cover die and placed it over my stamped background. I chose 2 sentiments from the stamp set. I inked them with obsidian ink. I thought those needed to pop up just a little bit, so I took bigger strips of paper and blended ruby red ink and placed the white sentiment strips over the top of that. I thought that looked much better now. And I used the Altenew tape runner to place those over the top. And that completes the 5th card. Now here are all 5 cards together. Remember how I chose the creativity set because it had no flowers? Somehow I'm seeing flowers on all of these cards. Thank you for joining me today and watching my creativity session with the Dedcadent Dodecagram Creativity Kit. I do have a blog post on the Altenew blog as well as on my own, and I will have those linked in the description box below. If you like this video, remember to hit the thumbs up button and subscribe. Hope your day is blessed. Bye.